Well, for most people, where they're from, where they were born is just a stamp on your passport. But for me, being born in Havana, Cuba, really has defined me. I remember so well the day that we left. My parents had bought us some new clothes. Basically, that's how we came to the United States, with just that and maybe a little bag, because we thought this is going to be another revolution, it's going to blow over. We came on one of the last flights of Pan American. We bought a round-trip ticket. That's how optimistic we were. I was so happy because it was our first airplane ride. Wow, we're going to this new place. And what I remember is then looking at my mom, and her tears were just streaming down her face. When we first got here, we didn't have a home. And so we were sort of vagabonds like everyone was. Nobody had money. For my parents, they were beside themselves. You know what, do we get a job? Do we keep fighting Castro? We do it all. They had their priorities straight. Get a job, keep fighting Castro, keep your family safe. Having lost my native homeland, Cuba, to communism, I tend to look at the fight between good and evil as not something of the past, but something very real today.
That's why they believed in the United States. This was a country where you could go someplace.
I think that education and public service have so much to do with one another. Both parts of me as an educator, that's always been the love of my life, is to teach.
But on the other hand, don't accept true character defects. Don't make excuses for a dictatorship, for people who put other people in front of a firing squad.
And that's why I became so interested in foreign affairs, and that's what led me to Congress, and that's what led me to be part of the debate. What is the United States' role in the world? What can we do as individuals to bring about a better world for our children and our grandchildren?
Martin Luther King said, "An injustice anywhere is an affront to justice everywhere." I've never known anybody who lives that phrase, who fights for justice everywhere, more than you.
My father, Enrique Ross, always had an interest in politics. It had never occurred to either of us that I could run for office. And so then they said, you know, why don't you go to this campaign school, see what it's like? So we were the best campaigners, because since we did not know how to run a campaign, if they told us, you knock on 30 doors every day, we did it. And got elected first to a state house seat.
She got assigned to a certain committee, and I wanted to try to trade committees. And when I asked to do that, she declined.
You know, I was a little suspicious. I'm a Republican, he's a Democrat, and I thought there must have been an ulterior motive here.
I went to a payphone and called her room and asked her if she wanted to go to Baskin-Robbins. So we went out to Baskin-Robbins down the road.
We didn't talk about committee assignments. He didn't want any of my committees. He didn't want any of my bills. He was after something else. The rest is history. From State House, we both ran for the State Senate. From the State Senate, he went off to be a U.S. attorney for this area, and I went to the United States Congress. I got elected one day, and 2 days later, I'm getting sworn in. I want to fight for those people who feel like they're cast aside. One of the great things that I'm most proud of is helping the people of Cuba free themselves of this tyranny. I like every part about this job. People are going to say, "Oh, you're not gonna miss flying up. You know, tomorrow I'll be in an airplane going to D.C. You're not going to miss that." Actually, I am. So I hope people still come up to me and complain. Every day is a wonderland to me. Every day is a new adventure. When I got elected, there weren't many female role models to look up to, and certainly very few Hispanic female role models who were elected officials. So we didn't have a whole farm team that I could say, "Oh, look, she did it, she did it, she did it. I could do it too."
It's hard to believe today, but back in those days, there were no Cuban Americans in Congress or in the legislative branches beyond Tallahassee. And so for someone kind of interested in politics and growing up to see that a Cuban American from our community had been elected to Congress kind of helped me to believe that I could be a West Miami commissioner or a state legislator or speaker of the House or a member of the U.S. Senate.
And Dante Fasel, who was a congressman of this area, he chaired the Foreign Affairs Committee at the time, and that's where I wanted to be because Foreign Affairs is what got me to Congress. And he said, we don't have a spot on the committee, but let me put this chair here. I mean, it was a little card table and a chair, and he says, Ileana, you just sit right here, we'll make this happen. And that's where I sat for a bunch of weeks until they finally made room for me. All around the world, people are enslaved because of their religious beliefs, because of their sexual identity or sexual orientation, because of their standing in the socioeconomic world. You know, they're cast aside. Fighting for freedom, fighting for equality, fighting for an individual's right to be what that individual wants to be. We want that person to live in his or her own authentic truth.
You were the first Hispanic woman to serve in the Florida House of Representatives, the Florida Senate, the first Cuban American to serve in the United States House of Representatives, and the first woman of any background to serve as chair of a regular standing committee of the House. You are a trailblazer, Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen.
You always want to be in our heart first, so thank you so much.
Te queremos.
Te queremos mucho.
Felicidades.
Love you.
In the history of the United States Congress, nobody has fought harder for freedom, for democracy, than Ileana Ros-Lehtinen.
You have been a stellar advocate, not only for the Latino community, for the foreign affairs community, but for the LGBT community.
Thank you for teaching me so much. I can't imagine the House floor without you. You are such a dynamic presence, always smiling.
Because of you, so many of us can dream big.
Let me thank you for 29 years of service to this country.
On behalf of Univision and the entire community, thank you, con todo amor.
Because of you, I'm much more aware of the challenges of the Cuban people.
Ileana, gracias por levantar tu voz y hacer una diferencia para el pueblo de Venezuela al hablar de la ruptura de los derechos humanos que están pasando en Venezuela.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the years of service in the Congress.
Because of you, as the first Latina member of Congress, there have been so many more Latinas elected to Congress.
Ileana, because of you, Chli is a strong organization that focuses on making sure that our young future leaders have an opportunity.
On behalf of Ford Motor Company, corporate founder of Chli, we have been here since day one when you and Lincoln started this great organization.
Ileana, because of you, you've made me feel that I belong on Capitol Hill and can make a difference.
Because of you, I've learned about true bipartisanship, whether it's in Congress or even in the local community.
Congresswoman, you've made such a difference for South Florida and the people you represent. You've made such a difference for our nation.
Because of you, our country is so much better. Thank you for all you've done for so many.
She's the model on what a legislator should be, and if we all act a little bit more like Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, this country would be a better place.
I admire you so deeply. It was such a privilege to be in the trenches with you for 2 decades, fighting for justice everywhere, every single day.
I gained a close personal friend who I love dearly and who I will miss unimaginably. Mazel tov, my friend. We will miss you, but I know that I will see you often at home and that you will be gone but not forgotten.
Everything that I've done, that I've been able to accomplish has been, how did you bring about a better world for this next generation?